He screamed in her face, calling her a trespasser. He threatened to have her arrested for sitting in a lounge he claimed she couldn't afford to look at. Derek Hunt, the manager of the most exclusive private terminal at JFK, thought he was clearing out riffraff to protect the elite. He didn't care about her explanations. He didn't care about her dignity. But there was one small, catastrophic detail Derek missed. The woman he was humiliating wasn't just a passenger. She wasn't just a VIP. She was the landlord. And by the time he realized whose signature was on his paycheck, it was already too late. The rain at JFK International Airport was relentless, a grey sheet of water that hammered against the floor-to-ceiling glass of the AeroGuard private terminal. It was the kind of weather that grounded Cessnas and made Gulf Stream pilots nervous about their slot times. Inside the terminal, the atmosphere was hermetically sealed luxury. The air smelled of white tea and expensive leather. It was a sanctuary for the 1%, titans of industry, A-list celebrities, and old money families who hadn't flown commercial in 3 generations. Derek Hunt adjusted his tie in the reflection of the mahogany concierge desk. He was the terminal manager for AeroGuard, a position he wore like a suit of armor. Derek was a man who believed the world was divided into 2 categories, those who mattered and those who served them. He prided himself on his ability to distinguish between the 2 at a glance. He knew a bespoke Brioni suit from an off-the-rack imposter. He could spot a fake Rolex from across the room. Today, Derek was on edge. The manifest was heavy. The CEO of Omni Global, Julian Thorpe, was due to land in an hour, and a famous pop star was departing for Tokyo. Everything had to be perfect. The marble floors had to gleam. The champagne had to be chilled to exactly 42 degrees. "Sarah," Derek snapped at the young receptionist, "straighten those magazines. Architectural Digest should be on top, not Forbes. We aren't a stock exchange." Sarah scrambled to obey. "Yes, Mr. Hunt. Sorry." Derek scoffed, turning his attention back to the automatic sliding doors. They hissed open, letting in a gust of damp, cold air. A woman walked in. Derek's eyes narrowed instantly. She was a complete anomaly in the pristine ecosystem of AeroGuard. She was black, perhaps in her mid-30s, wearing a slightly oversized grey hoodie that looked damp from the rain, black leggings, and white sneakers that had seen better days. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she carried a battered leather duffel bag slung over one shoulder. No entourage, no driver carrying her bags, no Rimowa aluminum suitcases. She looked exhausted. She walked with a slight limp, favoring her left leg, and stopped in the center of the lobby, looking around as if searching for something. Derek felt a vein in his temple pulse. Security needs to be fired, he thought. How did she get past the gate? The woman moved toward the seating area, specifically toward the Chesterfield leather sofas reserved for platinum members. She dropped her bag onto the pristine floor with a heavy thud and sighed, reaching for a bottle of sparkling water on the complimentary refreshment table. That was the trigger. Derek marched out from behind the concierge desk, his heels clicking aggressively on the marble. He didn't walk. He advanced. He intercepted her just as her hand touched the cold glass of the San Pellegrino bottle. "Excuse me." Derek's voice projected across the silent lounge, sharp and accusatory. The woman froze. She turned slowly, her eyes tired but calm. "Yes?" "Put that back," Derek commanded, pointing a finger at the water, "and step away from the refreshment bar." The woman looked at the bottle, then back at him. "I'm sorry? I just wanted some water. It's been a long drive." "This isn't a 7-Eleven," Derek sneered, closing the distance until he was uncomfortably close. He could smell the rain on her clothes. It smelled like the outside world, a smell he detested. "This is a private aviation terminal. It is for members and ticketed passengers of private charters only. The public waiting area for commercial flights is Terminal 4, which is a bus ride away. He gestured toward the door she had just entered. You need to leave, now. The woman didn't flinch. She fully turned to face him, crossing her arms. I know where I am. I'm waiting for a flight. My name is Serena Cross. Derek let out a short, incredulous laugh. Waiting for a flight? Look, lady, I don't know how you got past the perimeter gate, and believe me, the guard who let you in is going to be unemployed by noon. But you aren't flying out of here. Our cheapest charter starts at $15,000 for a one-way domestic hop. Does it look like I was born yesterday? Serena Cross took a deep breath, her patience visibly thinning. Check the manifest. I'm flying out on a Global 7500. Tail number N808SC. It should be fueled and waiting on the tarmac. Derek stared at her. The audacity was breathtaking. She was tossing out aircraft models and tail numbers like she knew what they meant. Probably heard it in a rap song, he thought bitterly. I'm not checking anything for you, Derek spat. I am the manager of this facility, and I am telling you that you are trespassing. You are disturbing my actual guests. He gestured vaguely behind him. In the far corner, a couple, the Vanderbilts, real estate moguls, were sipping espresso and watching the scene with mild amusement. They whispered to each other, likely making bets on how long the riffraff would last. I don't want to cause a scene, Serena said, her voice low and steady. I'm tired. I've just come from a site inspection in Queens. My driver got a flat tire 3 miles out, so I walked the rest of the way because I didn't want to miss my slot. That's why I'm wet. That's why I look like this. Now, if you would just check the computer. You walked? Derek repeated, his voice rising. You walked onto JFK property? That is a security violation. That's it. He reached for the radio clipped to his belt. Security to the main lobby. I have an intruder. Code Grey. Serena's eyes hardened. The fatigue seemed to evaporate, replaced by a steeliness that Derek was too arrogant to recognize as a warning sign. You really don't want to do that, Serena said. I'm giving you a chance to do your job correctly. Check the name. Serena Cross. I don't care if you're Santa Claus, Derek yelled, losing his composure. Get your bag, get your trash, and get out of my terminal before I have you dragged out in handcuffs. The silence that followed Derek's shout was deafening. The Vanderbilts had stopped whispering and were now watching openly. Sarah, the receptionist, looked terrified, clutching a stack of magazines to her chest. Serena didn't move. She didn't retreat. She stood her ground, her gaze fixed on Derek's flushing face. You're making a mistake, she said, quietly. A very expensive mistake. The only mistake is you thinking you can hustle me, Derek retorted. He grabbed the handle of her battered leather duffel bag. If you won't leave, I'll help you. He yanked the bag. Don't touch my property, Serena snapped, her voice cracking like a whip. She grabbed the strap, engaging in a brief, ridiculous tug-of-war. Let go, Derek grunted. This is private property. It certainly is, Serena said, yanking the bag back with surprising strength. Derek stumbled forward, nearly losing his balance. His face turned a shade of purple that matched the orchids on the reception desk. At that moment, the heavy double doors of the secure entryway swung open. 2 uniformed security guards, Mike and Officer Reynolds, jogged in. They were contracted airport police, heavy-set and breathless. What's the problem, Mr. Hunt? Mike asked, his hand resting instinctively near his belt. Thank God, Derek straightened his jacket, regaining his sneer. Remove this woman. She is trespassing. She refused to leave when asked. She became aggressive and physically assaulted me. Serena looked at the guards. I did not assault him. He tried to take my bag. Officer Reynolds stepped forward, sizing Serena up. He saw the hoodie, the wet hair, the lack of expensive jewelry. His bias kicked in immediately, fueled by Derek's authority. "Ma'am, you need to come with us," Reynolds said, his tone bored but firm. "You can't be in here without a ticket." "I have a flight," Serena insisted, pulling a smartphone from her pocket. "If you let me show you my digital pass—" "Put the phone away," Derek shouted. "She's probably trying to record this to play the victim on social media. Officer, get her out. She's disturbing the peace. The Vanderbilts are right there." Derek pointed to the wealthy couple in the corner. Mr. Vanderbilt, a man who had made his fortune evicting widows from rent-controlled apartments, gave a dismissive wave of his hand. "She's loud," he called out. "Ruining the ambiance, Derek. Get rid of her." "You hear that?" Derek hissed at Serena. "You are unwanted." Serena looked at the Vanderbilts, then back at Derek. She unlocked her phone, ignoring Derek's shout. She wasn't recording, she was dialing. "Put the phone down." Reynolds stepped closer, looming over her. "Ma'am, last warning. I'm calling the owner of the aircraft to verify my identity, since your manager refuses to do his job," Serena said calmly, holding the phone to her ear. Derek laughed. It was a cruel, mocking sound. "Oh, this I have to hear. Who are you calling? Your sugar daddy? Going to ask him to send an Uber for you?" Serena ignored him. The line connected. "Yes," Serena said into the phone. "It's Cross. I'm at the terminal. I'm being denied entry. Yes, by the manager. He says I'm trespassing. No, he hasn't checked the manifest. Yes, he's standing right here. No, I haven't told him yet. I wanted to see how far he'd go." She paused, listening. A small, cold smile touched her lips. "Okay, I'll wait." She hung up and slipped the phone back into her pocket. Derek crossed his arms, feeling triumphant. "Well, did he pick up, or did you just leave a voicemail for a Google Voice number?" "The show is over. Officer, take her." Reynolds reached out and grabbed Serena's upper arm. His grip was tight, bordering on painful. "Let's go, lady. Don't make us drag you." "Get your hands off me," Serena said, her voice dropping an octave. It wasn't a plea, it was a command. "I am legally allowed to be here." "Not anymore," Derek gloated. "I have revoked your access. Even if you did have a ticket, which you don't, I have the right to refuse service to anyone who disrupts the environment. And you, looking like a drowned rat, are definitely a disruption." He leaned in close, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, so the officers wouldn't hear the worst of it. "Go back to commercial, honey, or better yet, take the bus. People like you don't belong in places like this. You bring down the property value just by standing there." Serena stared at him. The insult hung in the air, heavy and ugly. "People like me?" Serena repeated slowly. "You know exactly what I mean," Derek smirked. "Poor, classless, uninvited." Suddenly, the automatic doors at the main entrance whooshed open again. But this time, the entry was different. 2 black SUVs had pulled up right to the curb, vehicles with diplomatic plates. A man stormed in. He was wearing a suit that cost more than Derek's car. He was tall, silver-haired, and radiated the kind of authority that made the air in the room change pressure. It was Julian Thorpe, the CEO of OmniGlobal, the VIP Derek had been prepping for all morning. Derek's face instantly transformed from a mask of hate to a beaming, sycophantic smile. He literally shoved past Officer Reynolds to get to the door. "Mr. Thorpe," Derek gushed, extending a hand. "Welcome to AeroGuard. We are so honored to—" Julian Thorpe walked right past Derek as if he were invisible. He didn't even look at him. He walked straight toward the center of the room, his eyes locked on one person. He walked straight to the woman in the grey hoodie. Derek froze, his hand still extended in the air. What is happening? He thought. Is he going to yell at her too? Julian Thorpe stopped in front of Serena Cross. He looked at the security guard gripping her arm. "Officer," Julian said, his voice ice cold. "Why are you manhandling my boss?" The silence that fell over the terminal was absolute. It was heavier than the rain outside. Reynolds dropped Serena's arm as if it were red hot. "You're—" "What?" Derek stammered, his brain misfiring. "Mr. Thorpe, surely there's a mistake. This woman, she's a trespasser. She—" Serena rubbed her arm where the guard had grabbed her. She looked at Julian, then slowly turned her eyes back to Derek. "Hello, Julian," Serena said. "I see the acquisition went through." "Signed this morning, Ms. Cross," Julian said, bowing his head slightly in deference. "And I apologize for the delay. But I think we have a bigger problem here." Serena nodded. "We certainly do. Derek here was just explaining to me how I lower the property value." Derek's stomach dropped through the floor. The blood drained from his face so fast. He felt dizzy. "Ms. Cross?" Derek whispered. "As in Cross Aviation?" "Cross Holdings," Serena corrected him, her voice razor-sharp. "The parent company that bought the lease for this entire terminal 3 weeks ago. I own the building, Derek. I own the land. I own the fueling rights." She took a step toward him. "And as of 5 minutes ago," she pointed to the floor, "I own the chair you sit in." The realization hit Derek Hunt like a physical blow. The name Cross Holdings had been on the internal memos for weeks, a shadowy venture capital firm based in Zurich that had quietly acquired AeroGuard's parent company. Derek had ignored the emails, assuming it was just another corporate reshuffle that wouldn't affect his fiefdom. He had never bothered to look up the principal owner. He was looking at her now. I didn't know," Derek stammered, his hands shaking. "Ms. Cross, we have strict protocols. Security, safety. You understand, don't you? With the hoodie and the bag, I was just trying to protect the integrity of the terminal." "The integrity of the terminal," Serena repeated, tasting the words. She turned to Sarah, the receptionist, who was currently trying to make herself as small as possible behind the counter. "Sarah, give me the iPad with the passenger manifest." Sarah practically threw the tablet across the desk. Serena caught it, tapped the screen a few times, and turned it toward Derek. "There," she pointed. "Line 4, Serena Cross, owner-operator, flight 774 to London." She swiped the screen. "And here, a memo sent to all terminal managers 3 days ago. Ms. Cross will be conducting random site inspections. Please ensure full cooperation." "Did you read this, Derek?" Derek swallowed hard. He hadn't. He had marked it as read and gone back to browsing luxury watches on eBay. I must have missed it. It's been a very busy week. We had the Fashion Week rush." "You missed it," Serena said flatly. "Just like you missed the fact that you were screaming at a paying customer. Even if I wasn't the owner. Tell me, Derek, if I were just a regular person who had scraped together enough money for a charter flight to see a dying relative, would my treatment have been acceptable?" "No, of course not," Derek lied, sweat beading on his forehead. "We treat all our guests with respect." "Liar," Serena said. She turned to the security guards. "You two. Officer Reynolds, was it?" Reynolds looked like he wanted to vanish. "Ma'am, Ms. Cross, we were just following Mr. Hunt's orders. He declared a code grey. That's a threat to safety. We have to act." "A threat to safety," Serena mused. "Because I drank water? Because I sat down?" "He said you assaulted him," Mike, the other guard, piped up, trying to save himself. "He said you got physical." Serena looked at Derek. Her eyes were dark, unreadable. "Is that true, Derek? Did I assault you?" Derek opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He was trapped. The Vanderbilts were watching with rapt attention now, Mr. Vanderbilt actually recording on his phone. The irony was palpable. "We have CCTV," Serena said, pointing to the camera's dome in the ceiling. "Shall we review the tape, or do you want to retract your statement to the police?" Derek looked at Reynolds. I might have overreacted. It was a stressful situation. She was uncooperative. "Uncooperative with your racism?" Julian Thorpe interjected. He had moved to stand beside Serena, a silent, imposing guardian. "I heard what you whispered, Derek. People like you. Go back to commercial. Do you think because you wear a suit and work in a glass box, you get to decide a person's worth?" "I am not a racist," Derek shouted, his defensiveness flaring up one last time. "I was doing my job. She looked like a vagrant. It's about standards. If we let anyone in here looking like that, the brand suffers." Serena laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "The brand suffers? Derek, you are the brand liability. Do you know why I walked here?" Derek shook his head dumbly. "Because I wanted to see the approach," Serena said. "I wanted to see what my clients see when they arrive. I wanted to see if the staff were attentive. And you know what I found? The gate guard was asleep, the landscaping is overgrown, and the terminal manager is a petty tyrant who gets off on bullying women." She unzipped her battered duffel bag. Derek flinched, as if expecting a weapon. Instead, she pulled out a thick manila folder. "This," she held it up, "is the restructuring plan for AeroGuard. I was going to review it with the board next week. I was going to discuss raises, renovations, expansion." She dropped the folder onto the floor, right at Derek's feet. "But now, I think I need to start with personnel." The atmosphere in the terminal shifted from tense to catastrophic. The Vanderbilts, realizing the power dynamic had completely flipped, decided to intervene, on the winner's side. Mrs. Vanderbilt stood up, smoothing her skirt. "You know," she announced loudly, "he was incredibly rude to us when we arrived, too. Kept rushing us. Very unprofessional." Derek whipped around, betrayed. "Mrs. Vanderbilt, I got you the vintage Dom Perignon." "It was warm," she sniffed, "and frankly, the way you spoke to this young woman was appalling. We were just shocked into silence." Serena didn't buy it, but she appreciated the nails in Derek's coffin. She turned back to the manager. "Derek, hand over your badge." Derek clutched the plastic ID card clipped to his lapel. It was his identity. It was his access to the world of the elite. Without it, he was just another guy in a suit in Queens. "Ms. Cross, please," he begged, his voice cracking. "I have a mortgage. My daughter is in private school. I can change. I'll take sensitivity training. I'll apologize. I am apologizing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "You're sorry you got caught," Serena said. "You're sorry the vagrant turned out to be your boss. If I were anyone else, I'd be in the back of a police car right now because of your lies." She held out her hand. The badge. "Now." Derek's hands trembled as he unclipped the badge. He placed it in her hand. It felt heavy, like lead. "Pack your personal items," Serena said. "You have 5 minutes. Sarah will supervise you." Sarah straightened up, a newfound confidence in her posture. "Yes, Ms. Cross." "And Derek," Serena added, as he turned toward the office, his shoulders slumped in defeat. He stopped. "Yes." "The police aren't leaving." Derek froze. "What?" Serena gestured to Officer Reynolds. "Officer, you responded to a call about an assault, correct?" "Yes, ma'am," Reynolds said, sensing where this was going. "And the accuser admitted he lied about the assault to facilitate a false arrest?" Reynolds nodded slowly. "That's filing a false report, ma'am. It's a misdemeanor. But given the circumstances... And, Serena continued, he physically grabbed my bag and tried to forcibly remove me. That's battery. Unwanted physical contact. Ms. Cross, you can't be serious, Derek gasped. I touched your bag. You grabbed me, Serena corrected him. And you used the police as a weapon to intimidate me. I want to press charges. Julian Thorpe nodded approvingly. We have the footage, officer. We will have our legal team send it over within the hour. Reynolds looked at Derek. The camaraderie was gone. The thin blue line didn't extend to managers who made cops look like fools in front of billionaires. Mr. Hunt, Reynolds said, his voice dropping into official police cadence. I'm going to need you to step over here. You're being detained for filing a false police report. Detained? Derek shrieked. In my own terminal? Not your terminal anymore, Serena said calmly. She walked over to the refreshment bar, picked up the San Pellegrino bottle she had been denied earlier, and cracked it open. The hiss of the gas was the only sound in the room. She took a long sip, watching Derek as Reynolds turned him around and handcuffed him. The click of the cuffs echoed off the marble walls. You can't do this, Derek yelled as he was marched toward the door. Do you know who I know? I have friends on the city council. Tell them I said hello, Serena called out. As Derek was shoved out into the rain, the same rain he had mocked Serena for walking in, he saw his reflection in the glass. He didn't look like a manager anymore. He looked like a criminal. Inside, the terminal was quiet. Serena set the water down. She looked at Sarah. What is your name? Sarah, ma'am. Sarah Jenkins. Sarah, Serena smiled, a genuine, warm smile that transformed her face. Do you know how to run the scheduling software? Yes, ma'am. I do it all the time when Derek is on lunch. Good, Serena said. You're acting manager until I fly in a replacement team. Double pay for the next month. Sarah's jaw dropped. Thank you so much. Serena turned to Julian Thorpe. Julian, I'm sorry for the drama. Shall we get to the jet? We have business to discuss. Julian grinned. After that performance, I'd follow you anywhere. But first, he pointed to the door where Derek had just exited. I think your friend left something. On the floor, where Derek had been standing, lay his expensive fountain pen. It had fallen out of his pocket during the arrest. Serena walked over and picked it up. She looked at it, then tossed it into the trash can next to the door. Trash, she whispered. If Derek Hunt thought getting fired and arrested was the bottom of the barrel, he was wrong. The internet has a way of digging a basement underneath the barrel. By the time Derek was released on bail that evening, charged with filing a false police report and disorderly conduct, the video had already been viewed 4 million times. It wasn't just the Vanderbilts. A cleaning staff member in the lounge had been discreetly recording on their phone from the break room doorway. The angle was perfect. It showed Derek screaming, pointing, and physically grabbing the bag. It showed Serena's calm defiance, and most damning of all, it showed the moment Julian Thorpe dropped the bomb. Why are you manhandling my boss? The hashtag #TorturedTerminalTyrant was trending #1 on X, formerly Twitter. Derek sat in his Queens apartment, the lights off, watching his life implode on the glowing screen of his phone. Aviation Geek 199. I know this guy. He kicked me out of the lounge last year because I was wearing shorts. Guy is a total power tripper. Glad he got served. Justice for Serena. Eat the rich. Watch the moment his soul leaves his body when he realizes she owns the building. Pure cinema. Civil Rights Watch. This is a textbook example of racial profiling. He didn't see a customer. He saw a stereotype. We are contacting AeroGuard for a statement. Then came the news trucks. They were parked outside his apartment complex. Channel 4, Channel 7, CNN. Derek peeked through the blinds and saw a reporter doing a stand-up right in front of his lobby. "We are live outside the home of Derek Hunt," the reporter said, looking solemn. The former luxury terminal manager, who is now facing criminal charges after a viral altercation with billionaire mogul Serena Cross. Sources say AeroGuard has already issued a lifetime ban, and the FAA is reviewing his security credentials. Derek slumped against the wall. His phone rang. It was his mother. He let it go to voicemail. Meanwhile, 30,000 feet, somewhere over the Atlantic, inside the plush cabin of the Global 7500, Serena Cross was sipping a chamomile tea. The cabin was silent, save for the soft hum of the engines. Julian Thorpe sat across from her, reviewing a contract. "You're famous," Julian said, glancing at his iPad. "Your Instagram follower count just went up by 200,000 in 3 hours. Serena sighed, looking out the window at the dark ocean below. "I didn't want fame, Julian. I just wanted to get to London." "Why didn't you tell him immediately?" Julian asked gently. "You could have stopped him the moment you walked in." "I'm the owner." End of story. Serena turned to face him. Her expression was somber. "Because I needed to know," she said. "I needed to know how he treats people who don't have power. If I had flashed my black card or worn a Chanel suit, he would have kissed my ring. But I wanted to see who he really was. My father taught me that." Julian nodded. He knew the story, but few others did. "Your father, he worked at JFK, didn't he?" "For 30 years, Serena said softly. "He was a janitor in Terminal 4. Marcus Cross. He mopped the floors that Derek Hunt walked on. When I was a little girl, I used to come to work with him sometimes. I remember people stepping over him like he was trash. I remember managers yelling at him for taking a water break. He died of a heart attack in the break room because he was afraid to ask to leave early to see a doctor." She took a sip of tea, her hand trembling slightly. "I promised myself that if I ever made it, if I ever got to the top, I would never let anyone treat a human being like that in my house. And AeroGuard is my house now." She had made her fortune in tech logistics, creating the software that optimized cargo routes for major shipping companies. It was unglamorous, back-end work that made billions. She had bought the terminal not just for business, but as a silent monument to Marcus Cross. Derek Hunt wasn't just rude, Serena finished. He was the embodiment of everything that killed my father. The arrogance, the cruelty, the assumption that your paycheck determines your value. Julian closed his iPad. Well, he won't be hurting anyone else. The board just emailed. They want to launch a full internal investigation into all staff conduct. You started a revolution, Serena. 3 months later. The internet moves fast, but the legal system moves slow. Derek Hunt had become a pariah. No airline would touch him. No hotel would hire him. He was radioactively unemployable, desperate, broke, and fueled by a victim mentality that refused to die. Derek did the only thing he could think of. He sued. He found a sleazy lawyer, Saul Gorski, a man whose face appeared on bus bench advertisements with the slogan, "Injured, get paid." Together, they filed a wrongful termination suit against Cross Holdings, claiming Derek was a victim of entrapment and emotional distress. They claimed Serena had intentionally disguised herself to provoke a reaction, creating a hostile work environment to manufacture a reason to fire him. They asked for $10 million. The deposition was held in a glass-walled conference room in Manhattan. Derek sat on one side, wearing a cheap suit that didn't fit, looking gaunt and angry. Saul Gorski sat next to him, shuffling papers. On the other side sat Serena Cross. She looked immaculate in a Navy power suit. She was flanked by 2 lawyers from one of the most prestigious firms in New York, but she didn't look like she needed them. She looked bored. "Mr. Hunt," Serena's lead counsel began, adjusting his glasses. "You claim that Ms. Cross entrapped you by wearing a hoodie?" "She did," Derek insisted, leaning into the microphone. "She came in looking like a street person. She knew I would react. She set me up." "So," Serena spoke up, cutting off her own lawyer. She leaned forward, her eyes locking onto Derek's. "Your argument is that if a person looks poor, you are forced to abuse them? That you have no free will to be kind?" "I was protecting the terminal," Derek spat. "It's a luxury environment. We have standards." "Let's talk about standards," Serena said. She slid a document across the table. Derek looked at it. It was a printout of his work email logs from the day of the incident. "This is a time-stamped log of your activity," Serena explained. "At 10:14 a.m., 10 minutes before I arrived, you sent an email to your assistant manager. Read the highlighted line." Derek stared at the paper. He stayed silent. "Read it," Serena commanded. Derek mumbled. "It says, 'Get the security team ready to clear out the riffraff. I want the lobby empty for Omni Global.' And this one," Serena slid another paper, "from a year ago. A complaint filed by a Nigerian diplomat who was denied entry to the lounge despite having a valid pass. You wrote in the incident report, 'Subject did not fit the profile of our clientele.'" Serena sat back. "We audited your entire career, Derek. We found 12 separate complaints of racial profiling. 12. We found security footage of you mocking an elderly woman's accent. We found emails where you referred to passengers as cattle and garbage." Saul Gorski, the bus bench lawyer, started packing his briefcase. "What are you doing?" Derek whispered frantically to his lawyer. "I can't win this," Gorski muttered. "They have a pattern of behavior. This isn't entrapment, you idiot. It's a documented history of negligence and bias. If we go to court, you'll be countersued for damages to the brand, and you will lose everything you have left." Serena watched them bicker. She felt no joy, only a cold sense of closure. "I'm going to give you a choice, Derek," Serena said. Derek looked up, eyes red-rimmed. "You can drop this lawsuit right now," she said. "You can walk out of here, and we will never speak again. Or we proceed. I will countersue you for defamation. I will drag every single one of those 12 victims into court to testify against you. I will make sure the public knows every dirty detail of your career. And when I win, and I will win, I will garnish your wages for the rest of your life until you pay back every penny of legal fees." She paused. "Do you really want to gamble with me again?" Derek looked at the papers. He looked at Serena. He saw the same steel in her eyes that he had seen in the terminal lobby. He realized, finally, that he was small. I dropped the suit," Derek whispered. "Good," Serena said. She stood up. "And Derek? One more thing." He looked up. "My father's name was Marcus. He worked in Terminal 4. Next time you're at JFK, assuming you can even afford a ticket to fly, maybe stop by the memorial plaque we just installed for the maintenance staff. You might learn something about dignity." She walked out of the room, leaving Derek alone in the silence of his own making. The seasons had cycled through a full rotation since the incident that dismantled Derek Hunt's life and reshaped the soul of the AeroGuard terminal. It was autumn again in New York, the air crisp and smelling of distant wood smoke, even on the tarmac of JFK. For Serena Cross, the last 12 months had been a grueling marathon of corporate exorcism. Buying a company was easy. Changing its culture was like trying to turn an aircraft carrier in a bathtub. She had spent more nights sleeping on the leather sofas of the lounge than in her own bed, overseeing every detail of the transition. The changes were subtle to the untrained eye, but revolutionary to those who knew where to look. The first thing to go was the dress code sign that used to hang discreetly by the entrance, the one that gave managers carte blanche to profile guests. It was replaced by a digital display showcasing the artwork of local Queens high school students. The forbidding mahogany concierge desk, which Derek had used as a barricade, was lowered by 6 inches to feel less imposing and more welcoming. But the biggest change was the people. Serena stood on the mezzanine level, looking down at the bustling terminal below. It was 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, usually a quiet time, but the lounge was humming with a diverse crowd. In the corner, a tech startup team in hoodies, who would have been Derek's nightmare, were drinking espresso and coding furiously. Near the window, a grandmother in a traditional sari was video calling her family, her feet resting comfortably on an ottoman. The staff moved through the room, not with the stiff, terrified efficiency of servants, but with the relaxed confidence of hosts. "Ms. Cross." Serena turned to see Claire, the new terminal manager. Claire was a woman in her late 40s, with laugh lines around her eyes, and a resume that Derek would have sneered at. She had spent 15 years managing a high-volume diner in Jersey before managing the front of house for a busy hotel. She didn't know much about private jets when she started, but she knew everything about people. "Good morning, Claire." Serena smiled. "How's the morning rush?" "Smooth," Claire reported, handing Serena a tablet. "Mr. Thorpe's flight is fueling. We had a small issue with the catering for the Saudi delegation. They wanted a specific brand of dates we didn't have, but Sarah ran out to the international market in Astoria and got them. Crisis averted." "Sarah is a gem," Serena nodded. The young receptionist who had once cowered under Derek's shouting was now the assistant manager of guest experience. She walked with her head high. "There is one thing." Claire hesitated, her expression tightening slightly. "We have a visitor. He's outside the main glass doors. Security didn't let him in, obviously. But he says he knows you." Serena felt a prickle of intuition. "Who is it?" "He didn't give a name," Claire said. "But, well, he looks like he's fallen on hard times. He's asking for a moment of your time. He said to tell you he's returned the pen." Serena went still. The pen. The expensive fountain pen Derek had dropped when the police dragged him out. "Let him in," Serena said quietly. "Are you sure?" Claire asked, protective as always. "I can have Mike escort him away." "No," Serena said. "I need to see this." 5 minutes later, the automatic doors hissed open. The terminal went quiet, sensing the tension. Derek Hunt walked in. He was almost unrecognizable. The bespoke Italian suits were gone, replaced by a faded windbreaker and generic khaki pants. He had lost weight, his face gaunt and lined with new, harsh grooves of stress. His hair, once gelled to perfection, was graying at the temples and overdue for a cut. He didn't stride in like a king anymore. He walked with the hesitation of a man who expects to be told to leave. He stopped 10 feet away from Serena. He didn't look at the Vanderbilts, who were, ironically, there again. He didn't look at the luxury furniture. He only looked at Serena. "Hello, Derek," Serena said. Her voice was neutral. Not angry, not welcoming, just present. Derek swallowed. He held his hands together in front of him, fidgeting. "Ms. Cross," he rasped. His voice sounded rusty, like he hadn't used it for anything other than apologies in a long time. I didn't think you'd see me." "I was curious," Serena admitted. "Claire said you returned the pen." Derek reached into his windbreaker pocket. He pulled out the Mont Blanc fountain pen. It was scratched now, no longer gleaming. "I found it in my box of things," Derek said, looking at the pen. When they gave me my personal effects back, this was in there. I must have picked it up without thinking. I know it's not mine. It belongs to the desk, to the terminal." He stepped forward and placed it gently on the nearest table. "I didn't want to owe you anything," he muttered. "Is that why you came?" Serena asked. "To return a $50 pen? You could have mailed it." Derek let out a short, bitter laugh. He looked around the room, his eyes landing on Sarah. Sarah froze for a second, then held his gaze. Derek looked away first. Shame was a heavy coat, and he was wearing it in layers. "I can't get a job, Serena," Derek said, his voice cracking. "Not in this industry, not in hospitality. I'm on a blacklist. I Google my name, and the first 10 pages are, well, you know what they are. The terminal tyrant." He looked back at her, his eyes wet. "I'm working at a warehouse in New Jersey now, packing boxes. My boss is 19 years old. He yells at me if I take a bathroom break longer than 3 minutes." Serena said nothing. She let the silence stretch. "It's hell," Derek whispered. "And every day I think about this place. I think about how easy I had it. And I think about what I said to you." "Do you?" Serena asked. "Or do you just miss the air conditioning and the power?" "I miss the dignity," Derek said, the word hanging in the air like a ghost. "I miss feeling like I was someone. But I get it now. I get what you were trying to say in that deposition. When my 19-year-old boss screams at me, I feel small, I feel like dirt, and I realize that's how I made everyone else feel for 10 years. He took a deep breath, his shoulders sagging. "I didn't come here to ask for my job back. I know that bridge is burned. I wanted to say you were right. About everything. The lawsuit, the profiling. I was a small man in a big chair, and I'm paying for it." He turned to leave. "That's all. I just needed to say it to your face, not to a camera or a lawyer." Serena watched him turn. She saw the slump of his shoulders, the defeat in his walk. It would be easy to let him go. It would be justice. He was living the exact life he had wished on others. But Serena Cross wasn't interested in punishment. She was interested in change. "Derek," she called out. He stopped, his hand on the door sensor. "My father," Serena said, taking a step toward him. "He died of a heart attack because he was afraid to ask for a break. He was afraid because his manager made him feel expendable." Derek flinched, keeping his back to her. "I swore I would never be that kind of leader," Serena continued, "and that means I don't believe in throwing people away. Not even you." Derek turned around slowly, confusion warring with hope on his face. "I'm not giving you a job here," Serena said firmly. "You will never work at AeroGuard again. The staff here deserves peace, and your presence would disrupt that." Derek nodded, looking at the floor. "I understand." However, Serena reached into her blazer pocket and pulled out a business card. She scribbled a number on the back. "I own a logistics hub in Newark. It's hard work. It's unglamorous. It involves managing cargo schedules and coordinating with truck drivers. It's not champagne and caviar. But the pay is fair, and the benefits include health insurance." She walked over and held the card out to him. "The manager there is a man named Mr. Henderson. He's strict, but he's fair. I will call him. I will tell him to give you an interview for a shift supervisor role. If you pass his interview, and that is a big if, you can start at the bottom of management." Derek stared at the card. His hands were shaking as he took it. "Why?" he whispered. "After everything I did. Why?" "Because you came back," Serena said. "Because you looked Sarah in the eye. And because if I leave you to rot, I'm no better than you were. Everyone deserves a path back, Derek. but you have to walk it. I'm not carrying you." Derek gripped the card like a lifeline. He looked at Serena, and for the first time, there was no arrogance in his eyes, only gratitude. "Thank you," he choked out. I won't let you down." "Don't thank me," Serena said, turning back to the lounge. "Thank the riffraff, who decided to be the bigger person." Derek stood there for a moment longer, then nodded once to Claire and Sarah. He walked out into the autumn air, but this time he wasn't hunching against the wind. He had a destination. Serena watched him go through the glass. She felt a hand on her shoulder. It was Julian Thorpe, who had come down from the mezzanine. "You're softer than you look," Julian murmured. "I'm not soft," Serena corrected him, adjusting her cuffs. "I just know that a man with nothing to lose is dangerous. A man with a second chance is motivated. He'll be the hardest worker in that warehouse." "Always the pragmatist," Julian chuckled. "Ready to go. London is calling." "One last thing," Serena said. She walked over to the main seating area. She stood in the center of the room, looking at the diverse faces of the passengers, the attentive staff, the warm lighting. She thought about the day she walked in here, wet and tired, and was told she didn't belong. She walked over to the wall near the entrance. There, mounted discreetly, was a new bronze plaque. It had been installed just that morning. It read, "In memory of Marcus Cross, who taught us that the true measure of wealth is how you treat those who have nothing to give you." Serena reached out and touched the cold metal of her father's name. "We did it, Dad," she whispered. "We cleaned the house." She turned back to Julian, her eyes bright and clear. "Okay," she said, picking up her battered leather bag. "Let's fly." As they walked toward the tarmac, the camera pulled back, showing the terminal in all its transformed glory. The glass walls reflected the grey sky, but inside, the light was golden. And that, my friends, is the true end of the story. It would have been easy for Serena to destroy Derek completely. She had the money, the lawyers, and the public support to ruin his life forever. And frankly, many of us would have cheered if she did. But Serena Cross understood something that Derek never did. True power isn't about crushing your enemies. It's about setting a standard that forces them to become better people. Derek Hunt lost his luxury job, his reputation, and his ego. But in the end, he gained something far more valuable, a lesson in humility and a second chance he didn't deserve, but was given anyway. That is the difference between revenge and justice. Revenge just creates more pain. Justice creates change. Serena didn't just win the fight, she changed the battlefield. So the next time you find yourself in a position of power, whether you're a manager, a parent, or just someone waiting in line, ask yourself, are you being a Derek, or are you being a Serena? Because you never know when the person you're looking down on might be the one holding the keys to your future. Wow, that was a roller coaster. I honestly teared up at the end there. What did you think of Serena's decision to give Derek a job at the warehouse? Was she too nice, or was it the ultimate boss move? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Type Team Serena if you agree with her, or no way if you would have let him rot. And hey, if this story inspired you, please destroy that like button. It helps us create more long-form stories like this one. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're the first to see next week's drama. We have a crazy story coming up about a bride who cancels her wedding at the altar. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching. Stay kind, stay humble, and I'll see you in the next video.